Welcome back to Always Moving Forward. I want to just thank everybody for all the subscribers that have joined us this past week. We've been trying to get to our 1,000 subscriber goal, and we're quickly getting there. So I want to thank everybody who's been a part of that. Today, throughout this journey, I've got to meet a lot of really amazing people. And it just surprises me, from one show to the next, the people I get to sit down and talk to. So today I have a guest that is probably one of the most recognizable voices on television. And this guy is he's an actor, he's a comedian, he's a producer. This guy wears a ton of different hats. He's a musician. So I'm bringing in Michael McGlone. How's it going, Michael?
It's great, man. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for so much for being on the show. Like I said, this journey I've been on when doing this show, I've just gotten to meet some of the most amazing people, and I reached out and sent you a friend request on Facebook, which you're not even on Facebook that much anymore. So
I'm taking some time off, so it's more surgical, my presence there.
Right. So I was really surprised when you responded, which was awesome. And then we talked, and you agreed to come on the show, and so here we are. So I'm really excited about it, man. I'm excited.
I'm glad you are, man. Thank you so much.
So we're going to go ahead and get into the show. I want my audience to get to know a little bit more about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you're probably one of the most recognizable voices. People recognize you from the Geico commercials, and
mm-hmm.
And then you've done a ton of movies and television shows. So we're just going to jump into it. We're going to find out a little bit more about Michael today. So
okay,
we're going to start off. Where were you born and raised, and tell us a little bit about what life was like growing up before all the.
I was born in White Plains, New York,
mm-hmm.
and my family and I lived in various towns in the Northeast when I was a boy and into my teens. We spent most of our time through my childhood and adolescence in Fairfield, Connecticut. So that's where I left from to pursue my acting career.
Okay. Now, you started acting. What age were you when you started acting?
Unprofessionally, gosh, 7, 8. The teachers, some teachers that I had in elementary school readily identified that this is a kid who responds to attention and is comfortable being the center of attention. My astrological sign is Leo, so that's not surprising.
Right.
And I think my first time on a stage was when I was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
In The Princess and the Pea, or the Princess and the Pea, or the Prince and the Pauper, something like this. I can't remember the title of the piece, but it was something that you would recognize the title of, one of those old classic pieces. And I, from there, would be in shows if my athletic career allowed for it, because I was also a football player, and my brothers and I played lacrosse and football, etc. And so in high school, when I had to make a choice between sports and athletics, finally it was, rather between drama and athletics, it was drama finally. I played football in my freshman year in lacrosse, and then gave up football for my sophomore play. And then by my junior year, I just decided I wanted to focus on acting. And so I performed in both the fall and the spring plays, which you could only do if you were not in the athletic program as well, at least at that time at the school I was in.
Were the programs like running at the same time? Like, so when you wanted to do your drama?
That's essentially rehearsals and practice practice happened at the same time. You finish classes, and at some approximate time after that, you're in either rehearsal or your practice for whatever sport you're playing. And so because of that conflict, you had to make a choice between one or the other.
Okay. So now, like I said, you have, so many different talents, being a comedian, a producer, a musician, an actor. So was the acting the first, kind of the first passion that came along, or is it like, how did that progress?
I don't have a memory of one of my artistic pursuits presenting itself before another. I experience it as they were revealed to me in a very personal way, meaning when I'm 7 years old and I'm on a stage, I don't think of it as, oh, I'm going to be an actor. I just think I'm having a lot of fun being on stage. I like this. And with the writing, it was similar. I found that I wanted to write poems. I wanted to write stories. So I would do this. And it was only later in life that I realized, oh, people pursue these things for a living. They are actors, they are writers, and that's their profession, though that came later. So I wouldn't say that there was any professional focus on any of my artistic pursuits until probably 19 or 20. And at that time, it was acting. I decided that I would leave NYU, Tisch School of the Arts, which I experienced for 1 year, and I would pursue my career as an actor. And I didn't necessarily have an awareness of my other careers in quite the same defined way, though in the first year that I was in New York pursuing my professional career as an actor, I also wrote my first book. And novels, of course, are a big part of my life, the reading of them and the writing of them. Right. And I also, in my, I think, second or third year of living in New York City, pursuing my acting career, made my first CD of my music, my first record, Hero. And so all these things bloomed very organically. It was at best a subconscious agenda, a subconscious schedule that I had for them. There wasn't any intentionality surrounding the music or the literature, certainly not the comedy. The only one that had the intentionality was the acting. I came to New York to get on TV, get on stage, etc. And then as that started happening, I realized that, well, I also want to publish a book, and I also want to write poetry, and I would like to publish a collection of short stories potentially. And the books are the most important artistic expression for me literarily. I mean that with no disrespect to my poetry or the short stories, though my books being published is more vital to me than my other literary expressions. That's something that is more significant to me than the others, having that accomplished.
Right. So now, so you've been acting since you were 7. And,
yes, I've done a very amateur level, but yes.
Right. So, like, getting on stage at school and doing school plays and
right, they put me in the play. I'd audition for something, get into a play, etc. This type of thing.
So, do you remember maybe a pivotal moment that you're like, hey, this is something I want to pursue professionally?
There wasn't one specific moment that I can recall where there was any kind of epiphany about it. Mm-hmm. Similar to how all of these things were brought forward in my psyche and in my life, it was very organic and it had a schedule on its own. I was in ways a vessel for the information about what I was going to do with my life. I believe that I was born to do everything that I'm doing. I have no doubt that everything that I pursue artistically is what I was destined to pursue artistically. And throughout my life, one after the other, it was revealed to me that this is what you will do. You will be an actor. You will be a writer. You will write poetry. You will write short stories. You will write novels. And the most unexpected one, in fact, was comedy. I was invited actually to take part in a night that was all comedians. And from there forward, people started calling me a comedian. And then I performed in another stand-up comedy show. And then I started developing comedy online. And I was invited to another event where I performed stand-up comedy. And I didn't expect that. I didn't necessarily even consciously invite that, though now it is a part of my life. And something that I admire and respect as much as comedy is something that I claim to be a part of the community of.
Okay. I just interviewed Pooja Maharinda, and she was talking about when she was acting. She also does filmmaking, and she was a producer and a dancer. And she said that when she first started out, she thought she had to pick one over the other.
Mm.
She didn't realize that you could do multiple things. Like you can be a film producer and act and write the
Sure,
screenplay. You know,
sure.
it,
And I'm so happy she had that breakthrough awareness, because the other awareness is based in this idea that is more limited.
right.
She can, of course, do anything she wants with her life. She's a superpower. I believe that of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We have the greatness of love in our hearts, which is the ultimate power in this experience. And if you pursue anything with love, you will succeed. And the expansion of her awareness is something I'm very happy to hear about, because I want her success to be as expansive as she wants it to be. And
Right.
now it can be, because she realizes that there are all these different things that she can do and do well.
Right. Hey, so now, so you moved away to start your acting career. So you
Mm-hmm.
moved out of New York.
Well, I know we were living in Fairfield, Connecticut at the time,
Oh, okay, Connecticut.
and I had 1 year of college at New York University, Tisch School of the
Okay.
Arts. Then
Right.
I went back home briefly to Fairfield, Connecticut, and then was in New York City
Right.
pursuing my acting career. And that's 1992, 1993.
Okay. No, I think I read somewhere that the first project you did was you were a voice actor for.
The first job that I got, my first paid job, was a voiceover for Pizza Hut.
Oh,
And
okay.
it happened in September, I think, 1993.
Oh, wow.
However, the first audition that I had for the Brothers McMullen, which
Right.
was then called the McMullen Brothers, happened about a month before that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't get I don't think he offered me the job until either around the time I did the Pizza Hut job, or shortly after that. But I know that I auditioned for the job of the Brothers McMullen
Mm-hmm.
before I got my first paid job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know what happened with the Brothers McMullen. And for those of you who don't, it was this film that I got out of the newspaper, an ad in the newspaper, and it became this wonderful success for all of us involved, and it created a career for a few of us.
And that was a really great movie too. So
Thank you.
The other question I was going to ask you is, a lot of people when they start their career, they do a lot of small films, and you know, I would say they worked their way up. Um, was there like a process before you got to the McMullens? Like when you moved, you know, moved out of Connecticut and you started your career, was there like smaller films you did, or was like
When
the
I was at
McMullens?
NYU, I performed in a short film. I was in a play at NYU. So there were some pre-professional New York events.
Okay,
And of course, growing up in high school, I was in shows as well.
right.
Though I want to answer the question that you have. What is this specific question?
Well, I'm wondering if there's like a process like before, because the first big movie you did was the Brothers McMullen.
Which at the time,
Yeah,
no one knew that it was going to be what it became.
right,
I had an idea that it could do something, but I didn't know what that was because I was very new in the industry
right,
and I hadn't heard of Sundance or film festivals or anything like that. I just knew that this film that wasn't paying anybody, that was well written, wanted me to be in it, and so I was in it. As far as any preparation, there wasn't a great deal of that. It was for me very organic. I was in a scene study class downtown, and my awareness of what I was doing was essentially becoming a paid actor. That was it.
right,
And I was committed to being successful in it. So there wasn't any mapped out preparation for any professional job. It was, I want to be in scene study to enjoy my performing. It was more about that than it was about anything else.
right.
And I want to get jobs. So I was looking in the paper, I was looking for agents, etc.
Right.
And it's probably a similar story to a lot of people who come to New York or Los Angeles to be in the arts.
Okay. So now after you filmed the Brother McMullens and the show, you know, the movie became as popular as it did, um,
Mhm.
how did that kind of change life for you, and kind of help you in pursuing, you know, continue down that road?
Well, it created a career for me, is what it did
Uh huh.
on screen. It went to Sundance Film Festival. It won the Grand Jury Prize. And there were agencies that I had sought before and frankly been rejected by that now wanted to work with me and then were working with me. I was getting auditions. I booked another film. I booked another film. And so essentially, as I said before, it created a career on screen for me. And my life was changed as a result of it going to Sundance Film Festival and winning that festival. I was on the phone with my father in an airport, and I said either this exactly or something very similar to this on the phone with him. I said, everything's different now.
Hmm.
It's all different. It's all changed. And I meant that in a positive way
Right. Right.
because I felt that I'm now in this industry
Right.
suddenly.
Right.
And I was. And it was delightful and wonderful. And I was very happy about that. And it was also very scary and problematic as well. Problematic because I was less ready for it than I realized. I
Right.
wanted to be ready for it. In my heart of hearts, I wanted to be ready for what was happening to me, this amazing success.
Right.
And what I found out was I was not as ready for it as I thought I was. And the evidence of that was I started drinking very heavily. And normally people are doing that who are feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
I haven't met anyone who abuses alcohol who's basically comfortable in their life. If you're abusing alcohol, there's something going on in your life that's making you uncomfortable. And you want to numb yourself from the feelings that are being brought up, and you want to retreat from the essential challenge of life that's being offered to you on a daily basis. And I found that when I was drinking, I could feel the pleasure of this removal from the emotional reality that I was so frightened about. And then, ironically, I find that that emotional reality is becoming only more scary the more that I avoid it. Because when you try to avoid your reality with alcohol, you only make your capacity to address that reality less acute. And finally, by the grace of God and my mother's love and other love in my life, this message that was consistent throughout my life that had to do with you're destined for more than this self-abuse that you're putting yourself through. You're destined for a greater possibility, a greater potential than you're allowing yourself to experience. And know you're loved, and know that alcohol is not helping you. Now, I'm not hearing this message necessarily literally, but there's something where I am receiving what I consider to be a divine message through my mother's love, through the love of other people, through other signals in life that are telling me alcohol is hurting you, not helping you. And it took 3 times. I was sober twice before this sobriety that I'm currently in now, which I just celebrated 20 years of.
Wow,
And it's, you know, you get sober when you can get sober.
right.
There are people out there right now who might be in the state of affairs that I'm in, where they're celebrating a certain multi-year sobriety. There's other people who are still not available to treating themselves as well and healthily as I want them to, and as they truly want to treat themselves. And I pray that their schedule for that is soon, though you can't force it. And I got sober when I could get sober, and that was the 3rd time. So whatever's going on, this is what I would say to anyone who is feeling that they're in crisis, or they suspect they're in crisis, or just feeling uncomfortable in their lives, even if it's not alcohol that's affecting them. Be comfortable with whatever's going on. Be as comfortable as you can be with whatever's going on, because it's only through relaxing into whatever's happening and acknowledging fully whatever's happening. If it's painful, if it's dark, if it's negative, embrace it. Rumi's poem, The Guest House, is a wonderful expression of what I'm inviting people to do, which is essentially accept everything that's going on with you emotionally and spiritually and mentally, and know that you will only have the most profound and positive spiritual experience if you let it all happen. And that includes, of course, the knowledge of how you can best love yourself. And only when I relax into what I'm really thinking, what I'm really feeling, can I see if I'm doing what is best for myself. And when I relax into what I'm really thinking, what I'm really feeling, I can see, oh, maybe that choice was about me not being as good to myself as I want to be. So I can adjust that choice and make a different choice. And, or there's a moment where I say, oh, I did something and that was actually extremely good for me. And that's an example of me loving myself very richly. And I want to do more of that. So let's encourage the experience of that. And all of it is for our benefit. Whatever's happening in anyone's life, it's for your benefit. And if you're in pain, it's because there's something unresolved in your heart and in your mind that's telling you, please resolve me. The pain's there to show you something. Just as the joy's there to show you something. The pain and the joy, they're all there to show you more love. And if you can open your heart to everything that's happening, you'll get the full message. and then you'll have the full experience.
So I want to kind of go back a second.
Yeah.
So whenever you did the show or the movie, nobody expected it to blow up and be as big as it did. So
I don't know. I can't speak for other people. I didn't know that. Though right. I will tell you, even when we were shooting it, I wasn't making any money on it, but I knew something special was happening. Right. There was something I was aware of, that this is special. What's going on right now is special. Right. I didn't know what could possibly happen with it, but I did know that something could happen with it. Right. I didn't know what that was, though.
So when was the pivotal moment that you started realizing, hey, this is turned into something, something big?
Probably when it was at Sundance. And I was at Sundance, I'm looking around, and there are these people treating other members of the cast and me in a way that was very positive and pleasant, and agents are talking to me, et cetera. And again, there's not one moment it happens for me.
Right.
Though gradually I'm just getting this awareness that, wait, this is happening. This movie has affected these people in this way. And now, as I said before, there's this awareness that, oh, I'm in this industry now as a professional, a verified professional.
Right. Now, when you found yourself in that position, is that kind of what, was it like a scary moment for you? Like you're starting to realize, hey, look.
I wasn't consciously aware of fear at that time. I was only aware that I was enjoying myself. Right. And I had started drinking before I went to Sundance. I was coming out of a sobriety that was about 3.5 years. I got sober for the first time when I was about 18 years old. And just to give you some insight into my subconscious awareness of what was going on,
right.
I believe that I knew success was coming on the wings of the Brothers McMullen, because right. I started drinking before I was aware that Sundance was going to be as professionally successful as it was.
Right.
So obviously there was an anxiety in me that I wanted to tamp down somehow with alcohol. And I started doing that before Sundance. So the fear was already brimming in me. And then I went to Sundance, and I won't say that I was afraid at Sundance, because that's not something I identify with. I was also drunk a lot of the time at Sundance. And because of my capacity for alcohol, I still could present myself professionally in a way that was not compromising, and operate and have conversations that were professionally successful at Sundance. I won't say that I was always that way when I was drunk, though there were a lot of times when I was drunk at Sundance and having interactions that later proved to be positive.
Okay. So now, what advice would you give to somebody who's kind of facing that? So, they're starting to see that success, or, they know it's coming, and then they go through what you went through. What kind of advice would you give them?
What I said before, open your heart to what's really going on. And if you're afraid of something, that generally means that it's extremely meaningful.
Right.
I was afraid to do handstands. I was deeply afraid to do handstands. Now I do them every day. I was deeply afraid to enter a professional career that I deeply wanted, ironically enough, without the aid of alcohol.
Right.
Obviously, it frightened me to be in that world without the numbing agent of alcohol.
Right.
And I couldn't necessarily do what I'm advocating others to do in that moment, right. But to the degree that it's possible,
right.
If you're in crisis with alcohol or drugs or even just negative energy in your life, and you're feeling somehow suppressed by that,
right.
Do your best to relax and identify what's really going on. What are you afraid of? Identify what you're afraid of, if you can, and address it. Are you afraid of a conversation with your dad? Are you afraid of a conversation with your mom? Are you afraid of a conversation with yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you really think that you're this shining gift to the world, which is what you are.
Right.
You, me, all of us. That's what we are. We are love. We are the true reality. And if you're not feeling that as the truth, that means something's interfering with you experiencing the truth. And relax. Know it's okay. If you're feeling like you have to abuse yourself with alcohol, or you're under the weight of something else negative, just realize it's all right. People love you. There are people who want the best for you.
Right.
Try to reach out to those people and try to cultivate an awareness of you being one of those people for yourself.
Right.
Love yourself. Make decisions that are based in love of yourself and other people. It will always serve you. Make everything guided by love.
Right.
It will not ever fail you.
Okay, that's great advice. Now, after the movie's out, is big. That kind of blew up. What kind of changed for you? I mean, you started getting more offers, and people that was that had previously rejected you was open doors.
Right.
Started opening some doors for you. So, kind of tell us how did that kind of expand and helped you not only just get into the some more movies, but it helped you with all the other hats that you wear. Being a comedian, and you doing impersonations, and bringing.
As far as what happened with my acting career, I don't know that there was any specific link between that and the other artistic expressions that were happening already for me and continue to expand. Not that I can register at the moment. I pursued my music career because I wanted to pursue my music career. I pursued my acting career because I wanted to pursue my acting career. I will say that people recognizing me from films helped them be open to my music. So that's an assistance. But I think you were asking me something else. How did the acting help the music, etc.? But perhaps you were just asking of any kind of help between the two. So they all also, for me, assist each other because they all make me happy. And when I'm creating a song, I'm sure that my artistic abilities in other areas are being fueled and expanded in ways that I can't necessarily consciously recognize, but that are very rich because I'm happy. And when you're happy, you expand. And I think my abilities in any one area being more greatly experienced increases my abilities in all other areas. So happiness is a wonderful inspiration to productivity, I find.
Okay. Now the other question I was going to ask you is, because you do so many different things, do you find one to be more challenging than another, or like getting up and doing stand-up comedy, opposed to doing a film or opposed to doing a book? Do you find one more challenging than a different a different talent?
Just to do, you mean?
Yeah.
Objectively speaking, in my experience, there is nothing that requires a greater host of abilities and psychic wherewithal than stand-up comedy.
Right.
Physically speaking, I believe ballet is the greatest challenge. Artistically speaking, in regards to just having to be on a stage and deliver, nothing is as demanding as stand-up comedy, because you have to retain your mental acuity. You want people to laugh. There's the inherent pressure of, whether you like it or not, the expectation of amusement on the part of the audience. And you have to create and deliver material that is going to make people laugh. And the delivery, it requires so many different components: the verbal, the physical, because even if someone is completely still on stage, like I believe Stephen Wright is, that's a physical act. Being still is a physical act. Or if you're like Rodney Dangerfield and there's all this happening and there's a lot of kinetic activity, it's all designed to create a result. And the demands of it, I find, are the highest in that world. That's been my experience.
Okay. And I can see that too, because you know, it seems like each talent has its own pressures. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like when you're doing stand-up comedy, you know, you're looking for an immediate response from the audience. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're looking for them to find the humor in your comedy. When you're on a film set, you know, you're working with professional actors, so it seems to me like there's a lot of maybe some pressure there, you know, to make sure you're getting the scenes right. So, and then, you know, with your music,
I think it's personal. For me, that's my objective opinion, I said before, and then I have to say it's also my subjective opinion.
Right.
When I said it's my objective opinion, I was actually trying to illustrate the fact that I do believe that if you look at what it takes to be on stage and deliver that stand-up comedy, there's an argument that stand-up comedy is the most difficult, just empirically speaking.
Right.
So there are people who find it very natural, and they get up on stage and there's something very organic about the way that happens. There are other people who it's a bit more of an uphill climb finding their way there.
Right.
And to your question about the pressure of being on a set, I don't necessarily feel that. When I'm on a set, I feel very at ease. I feel very happy, in fact. I generally enjoy the people I work with. I've been very fortunate to be able to claim that actually most of the people I work with, by a long standard, have been very pleasant and even delightful. Right. And I love walking onto a set and performing.
Right.
I will tell you that it is also a less pressureful for me, actually, if there is any pressure. I mean, there's always some desire to well, there's always a great desire to do your best. And then there's a perhaps an anxiety that can occur, a positive anxiety that can occur before certain takes where you realize, oh, well, I have to, you know, because when you're working on a film, sometimes there are physical necessities. The cameraman wants you to be like this when you're performing the scene, and it doesn't feel natural to be like that in the scene, but you have to deliver. Right. And so how are you going to be like this in a scene when you know you're not physically comfortable, but you have to look physically comfortable and deliver moments? So there are these things where, inherent to the process, there are moments of anxiety about achieving it. And then there is the fact that when you do one take, it feels really good. And then you do another take and you feel, oh, maybe I didn't nail that. Can I do it again, et cetera? So I will say that it's always my desire to reflect a very high degree of quality. And then there are also times when that happens with relative ease. And then there are times when that happens with a little more work.
Right. Now when when you're talking about taking those scenes, do you find yourself being your worst critic? Like when you'll do a scene, that was great, and then you do it again, and you.
I don't know that worst critic is necessarily how I'd phrase it. I understand what you mean by that.
Right.
But I feel that I'm my best critic, actually, because I feel that I know when I've nailed it.
Right.
And I know when I didn't. So when I look at myself on screen and I see a moment where I don't feel I did so well, I don't necessarily feel that that's an uninformed opinion.
Right.
Other people are more generous than I am, and they'll say, well, I actually kind of like that. And I'm so happy because I'll look at it and I'll think, well, I thought that was a failure. And I'm happy you don't agree.
Right.
So and there are other times when I'll look at something and I'll really enjoy what I did. And I'll think, okay, you did well there. That was terrific.
Right.
So, but I understand that there are times when you're hypercritical of yourself, and I think that's what you're talking about. Right. And I have had moments of that, though. What I resist agreeing with is that that's qualifying me as being my worst critic, because sometimes I think that those criticisms are valid, that I'm looking at it accurately, that I don't think I did necessarily extremely well there. And then there's another argument for the fact that maybe there is something interfering with me seeing it clearly at times. So I believe it's both. I think it depends on my emotional whereabouts at the time. If I'm emotionally and mentally and spiritually clear, I think I'm a very good critic of when it was right and when it was something that was less than what I would have wanted it to be. And when I'm less clear, maybe there's more interference of whatever my self-loathing process at that moment is. And I'll give you an example of that. I once listened back to some tracks that I recorded, and I thought, oh man, these don't sound so good. I sent them to a friend, and he said, what are you talking about? These are awesome. And then I realized when I listened to them again that I was closer to agreement with him. I thought, oh, actually, these are pretty good. So I had to acknowledge that there was something interfering with me seeing that they were good at that time. So that's my interpersonal process with myself, that I wasn't feeling probably very good about myself, so I couldn't see that I had created good work.
Right.
Until I was feeling good about myself again in another atmosphere. So it's both.
Right. Okay. Is it when you find yourself in that position where you're listening to your music and you're like you didn't like it? How do you overcome that? Somebody you just get.
As I say, sometimes it's not about needing to overcome it. Sometimes it's about needing to do it again because I'm right. Right. I just that take wasn't it. I didn't nail it. I also work with someone by the name of Dominic Barbera, who, in addition to being a wonderful co-producer and mixer, is a dear friend of mine, and he's a magnificent artist,
right?
As a producer and a sound engineer, and his opinion has been extremely valuable to me, and so I'll give it to him, and I'll say, "What do you think?" And I'll think sometimes I nailed it, right? And he'll come back with, I think it's great, but he knows that I want him to tell me everything that he feels. Right. And he said, I think there might be some pitch issues, though, in the second chorus, or there might be some issues with this or that, or because there are times when I just want to be done with it. And so I'll think, all right, I think this is good, and I'm going to send it to him. And then he comes back and he says, all right, don't hate me, because he's a very sweet guy. I wouldn't ever hate him. I love the man. Mm-hmm. He says, don't hate me, but I don't think it's there yet. And sometimes we know that together. Sometimes I will know that before I send him a track, and I'll just say, I don't think this is done, but listen to it. Maybe you think it is. Maybe it's okay. Right. There are certain tracks where I didn't think it was done. He listens back to it, and he thinks, this sounds pretty good to me, man. Right. And so it changes, man. And sometimes I know when it's gotten to a level where it's releasable. Other times I don't. And that's another good example of how collaboration is really a valuable part of the artistic process too. When you're dealing with collaborative art forms like making a record, making a movie, making a television show, you can rely on the wisdom of others to help you in your definitive process of deciding when it's done. And then there are other times where you just know it's done and that's it. And either someone sees that or they don't. You know, when you release your music and you know that represents my potential, and I reached my potential with that track. And if someone doesn't like it, they don't like it. And that's personal. Though that doesn't mean that I need to go back and change something. That just means that their personal tastes don't coincide with what I'm putting out.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and having somebody too that you can bounce, so your ideals and your projects off of, to be
Sure.
able to give you that that kind of feedback. That's valuable. It's valuable to have somebody like that in your life to be able to do that.
And I have many people.
Mhm,
My mom is one of them. My dear friend Rob Finley.
mhm.
I am graced with being able to have many people in my life whom I love and I trust, who
Right,
I also prize the intelligence of. And whether or not they're in the arts is not essential to me.
right,
The fact that they have a mind that operates at a very high level is what's important to me, because
right,
I know that they'll be able to make insightful comments that can benefit me.
right. I think they know you enough to know that you're what you're looking for.
That also is probable. I think that sometimes they are coming from a place where they realize what I'm looking for, though that's not necessarily what I'm looking for.
Right,
Meaning, I'm not looking for them to say, "Oh, what does Michael want out of this?" I want them to give me insight into how can this be the best it can possibly be,
right,
which most commonly is what I want.
right,
Though I wanted to be specific with my answer to you because it's only tailored to me in that I believe my friends know that I always want it to be the greatest it can be.
right. And that's where I was coming from. Is they
Oh,
know that,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that you're wanting it to be,
And you're absolutely
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So whenever they come to you, that's why you put your trust in them, is because they know you want a straight answer and you want it to be the
And I
best.
want it to be the best. And
Right,
and please assist me in making this the best it can be.
right. And then that's the importance too of just surrounding yourself with the right people. A lot of people surround themselves with yes people who just say what they think you want to hear, and
Right.
sometimes you have to have people around that will tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I know how tempting the yes answer can be, and I know that I've sought only yeses in my life before.
Right,
I am much more comfortable now, and extremely comfortable at times,
right,
with whatever is the truth for that person.
right,
Because even if it's not something that I feel can assist what's happening with my project or my life, it's
right,
going to assist me somehow because it's a truth from them.
right,
So not everything a friend of mine says to me necessarily finds its way into implementation,
right,
but it always benefits me.
right,
And I'll put this in the framework of relationships too, where if you're in a conversation with a friend and things get uncomfortable, that's good information. Or a friend says something to you that you don't like. Either you don't like it because it's true and you need to hear it, or you don't like it because it's an unfair, unkind, untrue assessment, but it's always valuable. It's always valuable, whether it feels positive or whether it feels negative. Reception of whatever the truth of another human being is positive, because then you can make your decision about whether or not it's good information for you to have in terms of making changes in your life, or whether it is good information for you to have in terms of this relationship isn't actually based in positivity. Because sometimes people will come from a place of darkness and negativity with you, and they'll say things that are unfair, unkind, that have to do with their own self-loathing. And if they're expressing these things to you, they can be painful and they can be uncomfortable, though it's always good information. All information is good information because it's going to assist you in knowing what's best to do. And whether that's keep someone in your life or potentially let someone go, it's going to be positive.
Right. And again, this some really good advice too, because you got to know the people who are looking out for you and the people that are toxic. That's
Mm-hmm.
toxic for you. So yeah, it's just great advice. So let me ask you this: is there a specific project, because you've done a lot? You've done a lot. Throughout your career, is there a specific project that you would like to do?
Yes, and I'm going to be cryptic here. Please forgive me,
Okay.
because when I'm in progress with something artistically in a specific way, I will reserve speaking openly about it, because there's, for me, a preservation of energy that's valuable in doing that. So I'm not going to be very specific. I am going to tell you that yes, there is a project specifically that I'm at work on right now and in development with, that I am extraordinarily happy with, and I look forward to the greater expression of.
All right, cool. Yeah, we're looking forward to be able to tell us what that is.
Thank you.
What you have it up and running. So the other question I was going to ask you is, you've been doing this for a while too. What do you think is the key to longevity in the film industry?
I will take two words, man. Don't stop.
Okay.
That's it. Don't give up. If you want it enough not to give up, no matter what happens, then you have what it takes to succeed in this industry. Right. And if for whatever reason you feel that you're tempted to throw your hands up and just say, I'm done with it, that's also good information. Mm-hmm. So be good to yourself is my advice, frankly. Outside of my answer to your question, if you feel that you can do something else with your life happily, take that seriously. If you know that this life, a life in the arts, is what is your passion, then you don't even necessarily need me to say don't quit, because you won't quit. That's what I find about the stories that I've heard in this industry, that people who feel that they can quit, generally it's because there's something else in life that might fuel their happiness more. For me, no matter what the stage of my success, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to do. And I love my work. Whether or not I'm getting the attention that I desire, I love my work, and I love creating. I love writing books. I love acting. I love performing. I love writing songs. I love my life. And I am committed to being available to my success for whatever schedule is required for it to be as great as it can be.
Right. And that's another thing too, is that you do, so many different things, with the acting, the writing, the music, the stand-up comedy. Do you think that part of it helps that you could walk away? I don't say walk away, but take a break from one and go to do something different? Does that kind of help?
It helps me not in the way that I believe framing it, that I need a break from one so I go to another, or the way it seemed maybe you were thinking of framing it. They all help me because they make me happy, Parks.
Right.
That's the truth of it.
Right.
I love happiness. I love love. I love people. And I'm happiest when I'm dealing with people and I'm feeling love and I'm giving love.
Right.
And I feel so good about myself when I'm artistically productive. Right. So it's an act of self-love when I get to work. Right. When I get to work and I'm creative, that's me, whether consciously or not, loving myself, because I know that I'm going to be happy if I do it.
And
So,
well, the way that I'm looking at it is, um, you're not stuck doing one thing the whole time. So you're not like acting the whole time. You get to do the acting, and then I don't want to say take a break because it's not the right word. You know what I mean? But then you get to develop another love.
yeah, I don't ever feel that I identify with needing a break from any one of them. It's
Right,
just whatever's calling me at the moment is, or whatever needs to receive my attention.
right,
If I'm on a set of a movie and it's just required that I be at a certain level of sharpness and focus with that. And
right,
so writing a song or working on an album in a more active way isn't necessarily going to be possible at that time. Or if
right,
I'm making a record, it's not possible to, split my time. It's literally not possible to split my time. So you have to make choices that are responsible for your life. One thing that is reassuring to me at times is that there are different ways for me to make a living, because in this industry sometimes you're making a lot of money and then other times you're not making any money. And the fact that my pursuit of voiceovers provides me with potential income, as well as my writing of books, my writing for the screen, my producing, and also being on screen as an actor, the fact that there are all these potential revenue streams is helpful to me, because there are times when you're not making any money in any of them, and the thought that at any moment you could be is a good thing to know. So that's helpful.
right. And that brings up another good point that people probably don't think about is when you're an actor, you go through the highs of being an actor when your shows, the movie's out and it's popular, and then you got kind of the lows where there's nothing coming in. You got those that time period. How does an actor survive during those times? And what do like you have other talents, you know what I mean, that you could rely on for a source of income, but people who are just focused on only one aspect of that, how do they how do they survive?
You'd have to ask them how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I'm supposing other jobs,
Yeah,
which a lot of actors and writers and producers and artistic people in general
yeah,
have maintained in order to survive and in order to get to the next job.
yeah,
So they're going to do whatever it takes.
right. All right, cool.
Which
So,
also is another expression of what I said before, that
mhm,
that's what people who are committed to their success do. You do
right,
whatever it takes.
right. And you think that might play into the part where people start picking up other talent, try to develop other talents, like, actors getting into producing and, maybe screenwriting. You think that kind of,
It's possible. Again, you're talking about people I haven't met, so I don't know.
right? Okay.
Though it's possible that them having to do something else is going to expand their awareness of their own abilities
Right.
as well. Sure.
Okay. So, one of the things I would to do is if you have, if I have somebody in my audience who's wanting to get into acting or get into filmmaking, what's the biggest advice that you've learned throughout the years that would help somebody?
Do it with your whole heart.
Mm-hmm.
Pursue what you're pursuing with everything you have.
Right.
And know that if it is truly what you want to do, that's what it takes.
Right.
Whether you receive the success early on or later on is inconsequential. Give your all to your work. Love yourself, love your work, and pursue it with a heart full of power that you can achieve success. and do whatever is necessary within the law and within loving yourself to achieve what you want to achieve. One's trajectory is different than another's, and there is no formula, in fact, outside of not quitting to succeed. The only through line that's consistent that I've found career to career in the arts is not giving up. Because one person does it one way and it's totally valid and it reaches the level they want it to. Another person does it a different way, or they move around something instead of going through it. They have a different trajectory. They take a different path and they reach where they want to reach. Because like our DNA, we have unique imprints. We have unique ways of working, and they're all valuable. And they're all going to have their specific poetry and their specific way of dancing. And I love to see it all. I love to see how different people go about their business. So don't think that there's any one way to go about it outside of work hard and don't quit. Those are two things. And don't quit, for me, is connected to work hard, because if you're not quitting, you're working. Right. And have a work ethic and don't give up. And don't expect it to come to you.
Yeah.
Don't expect it to come to you. Don't feel like you deserve it just because you have a look or you have an ability. The ability is valuable, and I prize that ability for people. Right. The work is essential, though. You've got to put the work in. And if you look at any number of careers in which people had stupendous talent, right, but then they didn't have the capacity to love themselves, right, or to have a value of themselves that was based in a work ethic. Because self-love is work. Right. Self-love is connected to a work ethic. You have to have your process of that every day, and you have to remain committed to it. Right. And if you have an ability, you have a great talent, but you have no way to love yourself, it's possible you will end up dead. And I'm not wishing that on anyone. Right. But if you look at these great artists who had wonderful gifts, but end up literally killing themselves with alcohol or drugs, or with a belt in a garage or a rope in a garage, you know, in that tremendously sorrowful event of them feeling that it's not worth it anymore. Right. Because the self-loathing has gotten that dark, it's gotten that negative. Though if you are dedicated to the process of cultivating whatever's necessary in your life to have the best life possible, you're going to be making the choices that are based in self-love. You're going to be making the choices about getting the help you need when things get dark, about taking the advice of someone that isn't feeling so comfortable but that you need to hear, etc. Any number of things. Or if you're a writer and you haven't produced anything in a week and you're feeling kind of antsy and anxious about having not been productive, and you're also feeling, gosh, do I have anything to say this week? Just get to work. Start writing. Just get to work. I've had it myself where there's tremendous anxiety about whether I'm going to create something that I like. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be good enough, etc.? These anxieties that happen, work through it. It happens to the most talented people, I guarantee you, because I've found, or at least I feel comfortable saying that it's my firm conviction that anyone with a great host of artistic abilities also has a great host of fragility and vulnerability to all kinds of different thoughts. And that's why artists who are very adept and very talented, I find sometimes need to be also very careful about their choices, because that temperament can lead to excess in both positive and negative ways. I'm a wonderful example of that. If my desire moves in a negative direction, it's going to move in that direction very abundantly. If it moves in a positive direction, it's going to go in that direction very abundantly. And so my daily process involves keeping things positive. And when I see the darkness come up in me and I see those anxieties coming up that have to do with not getting to work and not sitting down and having a day of writing, to move through that and say, no, you're going to have a day of writing because that's what you have to have for your life. Or you're going to take that yoga class, or you're going to call that friend, or you're going to have that therapy session. Whatever it is, do what's best for yourself. Do what's most self-loving. And working hard is an act of love.
Right.
Always. I've found it always to be an act of love. It always decreases my worry and always increases my sense of success.
Right. And I agree with that too, because, when you talk about, working hard and loving yourself, people are going to see you the way you see you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to take you as serious as you take yourself. And so, when you're out there working hard and you're loving yourself, it reflects.
You're going to present something that's powerful.
Right. So now, what? Let's talk about some of the stuff that you got currently coming up. So I know you're a writer, so you've been writing books. I think you just wrapped up a show.
I appeared on S.W.A.T for CBS recently. Right. And that was a delight. That's a wonderful show and a wonderful cast.
Right.
And as I say, I have some things in development, which I'm, again, going to be cryptic about. Though I welcome anyone and everyone who wants to be aware of what's coming up for me to go to my website, michaelmcglone.com, and click on join the mailing list and put your email address in the data bank so that you'll receive messages when I am reporting on what's coming up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'll put that information along with the interview so that people can come.
Excellent. And I also welcome people to search my music in various places where they get music, because my music is available in most, if not all, places that they would get their music. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. So I welcome them to explore the music if they're not aware of it, or explore it more if they are. And I'm very grateful for that attention.
Yeah. And up until recently, I didn't even know you did music. Just kind of doing some research, after we talked, and I saw some of the songs you came up with. Yeah, I mean, definitely they need to go check that out. I know you got projects that you can't talk about, but do you have like any more music or anything that you're working on currently that you're thinking about?
Yes, I don't have a release date for it, but my next full-length record is essentially just before the mastering stage. So all the tracks are mixed, and it will just be a matter of mastering them and then releasing them, which I will most likely do in conjunction with the release of something else that I can't talk about at the moment.
Okay.
So, and ongoing pursuits in my screenwriting and my novels as well.
Oh, awesome. All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I mean,
it's a pleasure. You're a wonderful guy, Parks, and I thank you for having me.
Yeah, I thank you for being on. I mean, it's been a pleasure to get to know you, and just going back and looking at all the projects that you've been involved in. The different shows. I'm a big fan of Psych.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, so see you in that, and then like you said, S.W.A.T. My wife and I watch S.W.A.T. all the time, so just to be to sit down and just kind of get to know you and all the different things that you're involved in. I just think it's incredible.
Well, thank you so much, and please thank your wife for me too.
I will definitely do that.
All right, brother. Have a wonderful day.
All right, thank you so much for being on the show. All right, guys.
You're so welcome. It's my pleasure.
I appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us today. Like I said, make sure you visit Mike McGlone's website so that you could follow all the new projects that he's working on, and kind of get to know some of the old stuff. But I'll post that information on on the bottom, linked it at the bottom of our interview. So until next week, remember, you guys are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. Peace. Cool. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. And what a beautiful finishing message on your part. That's excellent, Parks.
Thank you. Yeah,
very beautiful, very profound, and very true. So I'm happy you're sharing that with the world. I'm happy you're sharing yourself with the world.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for being on, man. And like I said, man, I wish you the best of luck with everything you're doing, man.
Thank you so much. And feel free to keep me in the loop in terms of what's going on with you. And know that I consider you a friend, and I look forward to hearing more and seeing more.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, brother.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hit for Roman court, one waiting on your word. Silence your only voice. When love and death, they marry each other. Simply have no choice. And your betrayer, he was your friend. But you were still in love with him. The same way you were in love, man, with everybody. Be they ate for rotten day. And I've never loved anybody that much. And I've never backed down on my knees. You say that's the only way I could ever truly be touched. But still you touch me. And on your way up, they spit upon your face. Though you carried that cross for them, your most beautiful moment was also the moment of your disgrace. And I think about it now and then, that I've never loved anybody that much. And I've never begged down on my knees. And though you say that's the only way I could ever truly be touched, still you touch me. Yeah, you touch me. Yeah, you touch me. Man, you touch me. So I think I might be able to love somebody that much. As for you, I would go down on my knees. And through the pain, feel the gain that I have. heart, would I be free? Yeah, would I be free? Could I be free? Well, I'd be free if I could just love anybody that much. As for you, I would go down on my knees and through the pain feel the gain that I had finally touched someone else. The way you touched me, the way you touched me, the way you touched me, the way you touched me.